Hello, my dear friends, and welcome. My name is Vickie Hadge, and this is Even Sewed as well. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about my initial symptoms and the signs that I might have had MS, and when I really knew that I had MS. I'm on a number of groups and forums with other MS patients, and quite frequently, there are people who post something like this. No diagnosis yet, but I have X, Y, and Z symptoms. Not diagnosed, but going to the doctor because I have this, this, and this. And there are a lot of people with many different diseases and autoimmune disorders who are wondering, what's wrong with me? What is going on? Some get diagnosed really quickly. You get a lesion in a really important part of your brain or your spine, and it's quite acute, so you know immediately something is wrong. But for others, it's kind of a slow go, and it could take months or years to get the answers that you need. I'll give you a bit of history first. When I was a child, I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was in second grade, and I wore a back brace for 9 years. A lot of times I would just dismiss symptoms that may have been related to my autoimmune disease, but I chalked it up to, scoliosis, pinched nerves, back problems. I overdid it. It's amazing how we can go into denial about our symptoms. But my first real discernible symptoms were in 2006. And it came on over a weekend. I was out with friends and I was having some difficulty walking. My right foot seemed to be weak and I was tripping and stumbling a bit. And I went to the doctor on a Monday and really was not concerned. I have a little bit of weakness, no big deal. And the doctor's like, yeah, you have some weakness. Let's get some blood work, see if there's anything going on. And before the blood work results could come back in, it got dramatically worse. I had classic foot drop. I didn't know it then. I didn't know what foot drop was. But still in denial, I'm like, oh, my foot's not working right. It must be a nerve problem. They can fix it. And I ended up going back to the doctor and he sent me for MRIs and he looked at my MRIs and he sent me to see a neurosurgeon. And I still wasn't convinced that there was something wrong with me, even though I was going to see a neurosurgeon. He looked at my scans and he did an exam and he said, yeah, we need to admit you into the hospital. And I said, oh, okay, when? And he said, yeah, right now. You need to go over to admitting and I'll call them and let them know that you're on the way. And that kind of scared me a lot. So I was in the hospital for the weekend getting lots of tests done and including a lumbar puncture and lots of blood work and multiple MRIs. And they started me on steroids. They said that they saw something that looked like a lesion in my neck. So they wanted to tamp down any inflammation as quickly as they could because my walking was continuing to deteriorate. And at the end of the weekend, the doctor came in and said, good news, it's not a tumor, which I was really relieved at. But still, I was thinking, whatever it is, they can fix. And he introduced me to my new neurologist, and the neurologist wasn't convinced that it was MS, but he suspected MS. So that was pretty scary. I think that was the beginning of my acknowledgement that there was something pretty wrong, and I was really scared. I didn't know what MS was. The steroids did their magic. My foot got much better quickly, and I started taking care of myself. Even though I didn't have a diagnosis, and I left with instructions to follow up with my doctor, my new neurologist. That was crazy. I started taking better care of myself. I wanted to get the strength back in my legs, so I started walking more and doing yoga and some strength training. And, like most people, when you have an acute health event, I started looking at diet and stress reduction and kind of taking responsibility for my health. You know, it wasn't my fault that I got sick, but it was my responsibility to look after my body. And I saw my neurologist once every 6 months, multiple MRIs, and nothing really came of it. So he said, yeah, go ahead, live your life. Call me if you have any other symptoms. Okay, good. I don't want to have MS. This is great news. Thanks, doc. Bye. And I went happily along for about 10 years until I started having more symptoms. And at that time, it was very subtle. I didn't have a true relapse in the sense of the word. I woke up one morning and there was acute symptoms. They came on kind of subtly. I had some sensation loss and some numbness, and when I exercised, I had some tingling and some pain on the bottom of my foot. And I pretty much ignored it. In the back of my head was that little voice going, Vickie, you have MS. And I really didn't want to be sick. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to exercise more and I'm going to eat better. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to meditate this away. Yeah, no, it didn't work. So I did go back to see the neurologist. I had to see a new one because my old one had moved on to a different specialty. And she didn't really see anything. She did some MRIs and some nerve conduction studies. And she's like, I really don't see anything. Let's repeat them in 6 months and see if we see a difference. Waited the 6 months. The symptoms didn't go away. They may have gotten a little worse. And in the back of my mind, Vickie, you have MS. Yeah, I didn't want to believe it. So I went back to her in 6 months and she didn't see anything new on the new set of MRIs. She just kind of shrugged her shoulders at me. And I said, well, what do I do now? And she said, well, you could go see an orthopedic group. And I went to see an orthopedic group and saw some doctors there and lots of x-rays, lots of tests. And yeah, we don't see anything wrong either. I said, okay, next steps. Well, you could go see a spinal surgeon. Okay, so I went to see a spinal surgeon, and every once in a while, you get a doctor that you just don't click with. Has that ever happened to you? You get to a doctor and they're just so overconfident that makes you go, yeah, give me a comment below if this has ever happened to you. And he wanted to do surgery on my neck. He thought that there was issues with my discs and he wanted to fuse them. And that time, the little voice in the back of my head screamed, yeah, no, Vickie, don't do that. So I'm really glad I listened and decided to go a completely different route on my own and went to see a physiatrist. And a physiatrist is a doctor that treats pain and problems in non-surgical ways. And they're really interesting doctors and they know a lot. So I suggest that you check out physiatrist if you're looking for answers. And I went to see him, and his physician's assistant saw me first and he's like, yeah, I don't think you need that surgery. I was like, oh, phew. And he brought in the physiatrist, and the physiatrist said, yeah, 100% don't get that surgery. And still in the back of my head, Vickie, you have MS. So the physiatrist said, I would like you to go see a friend of mine who's at the hospital for special care, and he's a neurologist. So I went to see him, and I had a really extensive nerve conduction study done. This neurologist said, yeah, it's not your extremities. There's definitely something wrong with your central nervous system. And I think at that point is when, yeah, I knew that little voice was right. I knew that I had MS, but I didn't have a diagnosis yet. So in my brain, I was preparing myself for the diagnosis, and he sent me off to see a MS neurologist at our local MS center. When I finally got the diagnosis of MS, there was a little bit of relief, like, oh, thank goodness I can name what is wrong with me. I'm not going crazy. These symptoms are not all in my head, and they're not all just because of stress. They're actually real symptoms. But I knew, Vickie, you have MS. And I knew this. part of me was like, oh, finally, now I know what's wrong. I can do something about it. And it wasn't that it wasn't devastating. It was. I was really scared, but there was also that sense of relief. Finally, I know what's wrong. So what did I do? I got all the recommendations of medications from the neurologist, and I started doing research. I know a lot of people say, don't Google it. Don't Google MS. It's too scary. I'm not one of those people. I think information is power, and I don't think that you should Google the worst of what could happen to you. But I think looking for information on treatment and looking for success stories and looking for others who are living well with their diagnosis can be very empowering. So I encourage you to do that. It is a disease that you can live well with. I do a combination of diet. I eat a whole food, plant-based diet, and I feed my body the most nutrient-dense, healthy foods that I can. I exercise regularly. I do a combination of cardio and a little bit of weights, and I make sure that I move my body regularly. And this is something that's a little bit new for me. I was trying to get exercise on a regular basis, but I was doing it in these bursts of exercise instead of moving regularly throughout the day. And I use my Fitbit. It reminds me to get up and walk. And I've been trying to take 1,000 steps an hour. And it's made a huge difference in not only my muscle tone, but it's made a huge difference in my fatigue. And I think I'm going to do a video soon all about fatigue, because that's really been bothering me a lot lately. So that has been improving. So exercise is the second thing I do. The third thing I do is make sure I get good sleep. When we sleep, that is when our brains and our central nervous systems repair and clean house. They clean all the garbage out of our systems, and it's imperative that we get good sleep. So I've been working on improving my sleep hygiene and making sure I get enough good rest every night. And the fourth thing is kindness and stress reduction. And I like calling it kindness because stress reduction seems like it's a chore. Oh, I must reduce my stress. And that can be stressful. So I label it kindness, being kind to myself, and also being kind to others. Helping out others is amazingly therapeutic. When you're feeling bad and you're having a tough time, if you go out and help others and you do some volunteer work, it's amazing how good that is for you and your stress levels. So kindness. I've said this before, is treat yourself with exquisite care. Treat yourself like you would treat someone you love. If someone you loved was ill, you would do anything for them to help them get better. So do that for yourself as well. And the last thing that I do is I do take medications. I think there's a good balance between Eastern and Western medical philosophies to keep us well. And I do take a disease-modifying treatment to help keep my MS at bay. And I also will take medications when my symptoms flare to help control my symptoms. There's no reason that we need to suffer with our symptoms. We need to take a look at the things that we can do to help it. Diet, eat the foods that are going to keep our body healthy and keep inflammation low, and exercise, keep our bodies strong and keep those feel-good hormones going. Sleep, get really good rest. Be kind to yourself. I meditate regularly, and this is a big part of my overall health. And also, I take my medications when needed. All of these things help me to live well with my MS. So back to the original question. when did I know that I had MS? I would say I probably knew that I had MS back in 2006. I knew that I had it. And it actually was a good thing. It was the catalyst for me to start taking better care of myself. And I started changing my diet. Started to change my diet. And I started to exercise more and take better care of myself. And I went 10 years really without any new symptoms. So that was fantastic. And it was good proof to me that if I take really good care of my body, it will respond in kind. And, the second indicator was when I started to get increased symptoms 10 years later. I knew there was something wrong. And I think that's key. We need to listen to our bodies. If we are feeling off or something's not right, we need to pay attention. And like I said, I saw like 5 different doctors that year before I got my diagnosis. And I encourage you to listen to your body. If there's something happening that's out of the normal for you, keep advocating for yourself. Keep asking, okay, what doctor should I see next? If you're not getting satisfactory answers, ask for referrals. Ask for second opinions. You don't need to suffer. Keep advocating for yourself. So that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you like videos like this and about MS and content about living well with MS, do me a favor and hit the like button under the video. And also, if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And also, if you'd like updates from me, see the link below to sign up for my newsletter. Until next time, my dear friends, be well.